Hello everybody, welcome to the afternoon panel of our webinar, Mega Events in Heritage-Rich Cities, from Research to Principles and Policy Recommendations. My name is Joanna Senetra-Szeliga and I represent the International Cultural Center in Krakow, one of the HOMI research partners. And I'm very happy to be chairing this afternoon session of our webinar. In the morning, we have presented the outcome of our HOMI project, the one that we are very proud of, which is the Charter for Mega Events in Heritage-Rich Cities. And we discussed how to put the charter into practice, into use. We had the pleasure to hear from representatives of various organizations of mega events, the future European Capitals of Culture in Kaunas 2022 and Aloysius 2023, as well as the cities that have already hosted some mega events, like Milan, who hosted Expo in 2015, or Wrocław, the European Capital of Culture 2016. We are very happy to have you here with us, and I hope that if you have any questions or comments, you will use the chat to connect with us and to let us know what you think and if you have any questions and requests to us. I think now it's the moment that the HOMI project, have been waiting quite a long time for, which is to present to you, to launch officially the Charter for Mega Events in Heritage Cities. And to this end, I would like to give the floor to Professor Jacek Purchla, the head of the Polish HOMI team, the founder and for 20 years the director of the International Cultural Center and a professor at the Krakow University of Economics. Professor, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Joanna. Hello and good afternoon from Krakow. Let me please emphasize at the beginning that cultural heritage today is not only a resource in need of protection, but also a potential that must be exploited for future development. Heritage is people, it's creators, interpreters, and users. Herein lies the key to discussing the dynamic process of creating and reinterpreting heritage, as well as of protecting and valorizing it at the urban scale. Recently, the planning and implementation of mega events, especially culture mega events, have interacted more and more intensively with these processes. In order to face these challenges, it is crucial that the public sector adopts new strategies for developing social capital, respecting culture heritage. Any investigation of the culture, political and economic impact of heritage on contemporary society provides one with more questions than, in fact, answers. What is society's attitude to heritage, to its meaningful but often difficult past? How does heritage shape communities? Who owns heritage and why? What are the social functions of heritage? What do we want to remember and what do we often forget? Finally, the question about the relationship between such broad brush picture of heritage and culture mega events arises. Culture mega events may and perhaps also should be well integrated into policies that build a broad base of heritage awareness to work towards these goals. In this sense, an integrated approach must be developed by both mega event and heritage actors, as the charter, our charter of mega events in heritage-rich cities clearly advocates. We are convinced that our HOMI charter provides useful principles and recommendations for decision makers to handle the complex task of deciding, planning, and delivering mega events without putting culture and heritage at risk. The lessons presented in the charter and also its snapshot section are, in our opinion, valuable, and they can help to inform future practice. It is why the broad endorsement of the Charter is essential, is crucial. I'm happy to emphasize that the list of cities and organizations that have endorsed the Charter so far is already impressive. We are grateful to Europa Nostra, the leading European voice of civil society committed to safeguarding and promoting culture and natural heritage, and personally to Śnieżka, being with us today. To European Network of Culture Management and Policy, NCAT, to Observatory for Research and Mega Events, to the Organization of World Heritage Cities, beautifully represented today by Robert Piaskowski, to the United Cities and Local Governments represented by Jordi Pascal, best regards, to the University Network of the European Capitals of Culture, and the last but not least also by several municipalities, among them City of Kraków, City of Milan, Paphos Municipality, and already mentioned Kaunas 2022 European Capital of Culture. So, dear friends, many thanks to the present and future endorsers. And now have a look at the short film, please. Thank you.
How can cities rich in culture host mega events without putting their own heritage at risk? How can mega events become effective ways to both promote and protect tangible and intangible heritage? The Charter for Mega Events in Heritage-Rich Cities responds to these challenges. It provides recommendations for decision makers and event organizers to avoid typical pitfalls while cooperating with the heritage sector. 3 years of research investigating case studies across Europe led to the development of the Charter. International experts and professionals reviewed and validated the final work, ensuring its relevance for practitioners. 13 key principles represent the Charter's core values, structured across the 4 themes of context matters: planning legacies, inclusive governance, communities, and identities. For each principle, The Charter offers snapshot examples that concretely depict best practices, critical issues, and learning opportunities from historical missteps. The range of organizations and institutions who have already endorsed the Charter further demonstrates the widespread need for such policy recommendations. From the bidding to the planning to the legacy phases of mega events, stakeholders can consult the Charter. Moreover, its relevance extends to other large cultural celebrations, festivals, and sporting mega events hosted by heritage-rich cities.
On behalf of Europa Nostra, the European voice of civil society committed to cultural heritage, I am pleased to endorse the Charter for Mega Events in Heritage-Rich Cities. This Charter breaks new grounds and provides further inspiration for policymakers at all levels to ensure proper safeguard and management of Europe's rich tangible and intangible heritage. It clearly delivers principles and recommendations for mega event plans to be implemented in such a way that they do not put heritage at risk, and also to actively involve the many heritage stakeholders and local community to maximize the contribution of cultural heritage to sustainable development and also to the well-being of citizens. Its wide-ranging and integrated approach makes this Charter a concrete tool for sustainable and responsible cultural tourism and for an innovative heritage policy in those cities deciding, programming and delivering mega events. Such a holistic approach should be inspired by the motto: better places to live, better places to enjoy and visit.
I'm Lee Minaidis, Interim Secretary General of the Organization of World Heritage Cities. The Organization of World Heritage Cities, the OWHC, is happy to endorse the Charter for Mega Events in Heritage-Rich Cities. We are fully convinced that the Charter's principles and recommendations will help cities to decide about and plan for such events in ways that are beneficial for their heritage, its protection, and valorization. I would like to encourage city leaders to read and use the Charter, to embrace its long-term perspective and integrated planning approach.
Hello, I am Jordi Pasqual. I am the coordinator of the Secretariat of the United Cities and Local Governments Committee on Culture. The Charter provides clear principles and recommendations on the complex task of deciding, planning and delivering mega events while keeping culture and heritage at the center. These principles and recommendations are meaningful and useful to cities and local governments. The lessons presented in the Charter and its snapshot section are extremely important. They transfer relevant policy knowledge, they are based on real-world experiences, they benefit the cities that actively recognize and support the various forms of heritage, and it is for these reasons that the Charter and its snapshots deserve the close attention of cities from around the world.
In my capacity as mayor, I am pleased to endorse the Charter for Mega Events in Heritage-Rich Cities. The Charter results from a research project developed in collaboration with public institutions such as the City of Milan, along with other important international organizations. Its principles and recommendations draw on policy lessons from events such as the Milan Expo 2015 as well as the Matera 2019 European Capital of Culture. They provide decision makers with concrete guidance in matters of heritage protection and valorization. The Charter is a critical resource for Milanese actors and stakeholders as they plan the Milano Cortina 2026 Winter Olympics, and for many other cities that will bid for, plan, and manage mega events in the future.
Thank you for the video, and I think that we can now safely declare that the Charter is officially launched. I would like to thank, on the behalf of the HOMI project, to everybody who already endorsed our Charter, and I would like to encourage you to go to our website, to download the Charter, to use it, to disseminate it and share it with other people who might be interested in organizing mega events in heritage-rich cities. Well, I think we can now move on to the discussion with our roundtable mega events and heritage policy in post-COVID cities. I think we should now look a little bit towards our future. It goes without saying that the COVID-19 pandemic altered the landscape of mega events and festivals. The beginning of last year abruptly stopped what has been a booming industry actually for a number of years now. And before the break, we had the chance to hear about possible scenarios of the future of mega events from Professor Bianchini of the HOMI project. And now I would like to go a little bit deeper, a little bit broader into the discussion and invite our guests to share their knowledge and expertise on that subject. I have with me representatives of various HOMI Charter stakeholders and endorsers. Please welcome Snežka Kvedlik-Mihajlović, the Secretary General of Europa Nostra, the European Voice of Civil Society committed to cultural heritage. Professor Maria Gravari-Barbas from Paris Panthéon-Sorbonne University. Robert Piaskowski, Krakow's Mayor Plenipotentiary for Culture, who represents here the Organization of World Heritage Cities. And last but not least, Jordi Pasqual, the founding coordinator of the Committee on Culture of the World Organization of United Cities and Local Governments. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you for those who already expressed the support for our Charter. It is very valuable to us that such experts as yourselves see our Charter as something worth disseminating and sharing, and we hope that people will use it further. I would like to start first the discussion with those of you who represent, in a way, cities, who deal with cities directly. And I would like to direct my first question towards Mr. Piaskowski. Krakow joins a number of networks, right? And now it's the leader of the Organization of World Heritage Cities. And I was wondering if you could tell us, how do you see the benefits of sharing and transferring the ideas and sharing policy practice, exchanging the experience? How does Krakow really benefit from that, and whether sharing the Charter could bring such benefits to cities as well?
Thank you, Joanna. Thank you, everyone who has contributed to the creation of such an important document, gathering different arguments, recommendations, which are extremely helpful to us, policy makers, politicians, people responsible for culture in our towns. But also, as you said, Krakow is deeply networked. This is a large community of partners. Krakow is a partner of League of Historic Cities based in Kyoto. We collaborate closely with UNESCO, ICROM, ICOMOS, but also with Creative Cities Network of UNESCO, because Krakow is a city of literature as well. So to spread this message, to spread this chart throughout such a dense network worldwide is a duty, and I promise I will make it immediately after this conference. But today I'm representing also OWHC, and as Secretary General Liminaitis just said, OWHC share values and recommendations, which has been so well expressed in the document. And just to tell you, OWHC organization founded in 1993 in Fez. This is today 300 cities in which are located sites included on the UNESCO World Heritage List. So in general, we are speaking about the population of more than 200 million inhabitants, united by the desire to preserve and promote their respective world heritage. And within this organization, such a chart might have an important effect, because what we share within the organization, we share, of course, values in favor to implement the World Heritage Convention, but also we encourage cooperation and the exchange of information and expertise on matters of conservation, management of urban heritage, and also current trends, current challenges all of the cities are confronted. And also to develop a sense of solidarity among all of the member cities. And we were raising during and touching during different congresses in the past many important matters still up to date. For example, heritage and local communities, how to engage. We were speaking about resilience of historic cities. And it was the title from 2015 of the World Congress of OWHC. Or sustainable cities we were discussing in Mexico, in Oaxaca in 2013. And also here in Krakow in 2019, the issue of the relationship between heritage and tourism, local communities and visitors, how to share responsibilities. That was the probably first moment when Krakow just widely and very openly were talking and presenting in itself in the context of over-tourism, which has been raising problem and challenge for our town as well. And the chart will be extremely useful also in the context of the next World Heritage Congress in Quebec City in 2022, because the title will be Enhancing Livability in World Heritage Cities. And events, festivals, balance between cultural events and heritage fabric will be deeply discussed. And of course, Mayor of Krakow, Professor Jacek Majchrowski, who is a president of the organization till 22, also endorsed the Charter for Mega Events in Heritage-Rich Cities, convinced that the Charter's principles and recommendations will help cities and Krakow also introduce strategic thinking about mega events in our historical areas. Of course, considering all opportunities and risks and working to benefit both residents and heritage. And this wide-ranging and integrated approach, innovative approach, has a special meaning as a response to COVID circumstances also. We are just in the middle of the festival season. It's fantastic to enter to the market square after lockdowns and to see 5 different festivals going on, but in balance with respect to heritage issues, with aesthetics, organization, protecting this priceless fabric. So I'm proud to share with you that actually we already implement all of the recommendations, well, maybe not all, but the most important, trying to calm down also historic centers, but also to bring local communities back. The center of the town is a common space where we meet with all of the visitors, but where we also express a new approach, new dimension of this living habitat, which we share with everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and I can confirm that it's a great thing to actually see all those people on the main market square of Krakow. I'm just in the building right on the market square, and I think it is extraordinary. I never thought it would be that emotional to see people again in the market square after a year of it being totally empty. And I think that the charter is definitely valid also now, even though it was prepared and conceived as an idea before the pandemic, because the pandemic made us a little bit, made us stop a little bit, made us rethink a little bit what we are doing. And I think that the charter and our recommendations made indeed, as you said, help cities rethink, reorganize their festival life. And I hope that we can be a part of it as the charter makers. And I would like to ask now Jordi Pasquale a little bit about his experience, because I know that the United Cities and local governments were quite active during the pandemic as well. And I was wondering if you could share with us your experience and your thoughts on the changes that the pandemic brought in transferring the ideas and sharing the policy innovation. Do you think now we need it more than before, and how to do it actually?
Thank you very much, Joanna, for this question. Thank you very much to the organizers. Before I answer the question, which is a very good one, very difficult one, let me highlight, let me praise the outstanding work that you have done in the process, in the outputs. The outputs are extremely beautiful and extremely useful. Shape and content go together. We will be very pleased to disseminate to all our members, the Culture Committee members, the charter you have produced. Congratulations, very sincere congratulations. Perhaps it is still a bit early to answer the question how the post-pandemic world will be. During the pandemic, we have been very active, trying to learn as much as possible, trying to be inspired because of the disease and the adaptation of the disease. We all cultural sectors have looked abroad to see what was happening in other places. So yes, in principle, we are now more attentive, ready to copy, ready to adapt from the experience of others. I am not sure that in content, the result of the pandemic or the new societies that we are now shaping once the pandemic slowly is won, not sure we will be able to base the new societies, the recovery in what we call in UCLG a society that cares for all, and which is mainly based in the explicit adoption of the right of everybody to participate in cultural life as a human right, and therefore as interrelated and interdependent to other rights, other human rights. We will see culture as a sphere of power, as a sphere of debate, is not an innocent one. There are plenty of very powerful actors that wish to go back to the business as usual. And let me say that as a whole, as a sector, as a range of actors that care for heritage, memories, history, creativity, diversity, knowledge, etc. All those words can be, say, clustered in culture. We are not very well suited. We are better suited with your charter. Let me also say this explicitly once again. But in the global conversation on development, we still have just three dimensions or pillars: the economy, the social inclusion, and the environment. We are not sitting at the table of the implementation or the achievement of the sustainable development goals. We are not very much involved in the most radical transformation that our societies are living, which is feminism. Still, yes, some connection, but not at the forefront. At least not as much as I would have imagined. We are not fully involved in the fight against climate change, climate emergency, the transition, the ecological transition. So I will finish with this: the need that we equip ourselves much better, defending our intrinsic values, which are connected to fundamental freedoms, self-expression, right to assembly, right to participate in cultural life, identifying obstacles so that everybody living in a place participates in cultural life, and relating that life with that right with other human rights in our nations, in our cities. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that intervention, because I think it's quite important to emphasize that culture definitely should be the fourth pillar of the sustainable development, or even not a pillar, maybe an area that encompasses everything which is within the sustainable development concept. And I think it's quite important, and we still have lots to do in that field. And I think we'll hear about it a little bit more from Snezhka, because I have some interesting questions to her that regard the potential of socioeconomic potential of culture and heritage. And I think it's quite important in those days right now. And I also liked quite a lot your saying that we cannot go to the business as usual. We should use the pandemic and this time as a possibility, opportunity to actually change. And I think that society that cares for all, that's what I've written here. It's this idealistic goal that we should be trying to reach in the future. So I hope that culture can be part of the solution of the challenges that we are facing at the moment. But I would like to go back for a moment to Krakow again, and ask Robert something that is a bit related to what we've been discussing now, namely the tourism. Because before the pandemic, Krakow was one of those cities that really complained about the over-tourism and the problems that we had with it, with that, I don't know, 12 million tourists coming to a 1 million people city every year. That's quite a lot, right? So I was wondering, what's the new strategy for culture for Krakow in that area? Are there any new ways that you think Krakow will engage both the inhabitants and the tourists with its own heritage?
Indeed, that was the, how can I say, feeling before 2019, that the capacity of the historic zone, the UNESCO zone, has been already abused or overcrowded, whereas the other urban districts or attractions, or even the region of Krakow, has been still a potential to redirect, to bring tourists to other attractions or castles around the Krakow town. So, of course, we were speaking about this over-tourism during the OWHC Congress in 2018. But I believe that tourism can make an important contribution to the new urban agenda and the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly Goal 11 on make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. So in the eve of the COVID, cities started already working on the new tourism policy, sustainable tourism policy, and it was the third one in Europe in that context. So the main goal, the main purpose was to promote the integration of tourism in the wider urban agenda. And of course, working on different values, because we know that tourism plays an important, even if not dominant, role in Krakow's economy. The GDP generated by the tourism is around 8–10% of the city's total GDP. Important employment, 40,000 jobs. That means that tourism economy and employment in the entire economy of Krakow exceeds 10%. So tourism is not the major industry in our town, but the relationship between heritage, inhabitants, and tourism in the heart of the city produces an image of over-tourism. So going back to this policy adopted from 2021 to 2028, we included all of the past trends in tourism development, phenomena associated with the COVID-19 pandemic, and forecasts indicate that the following activities should be reinforced in the management of the local tourism industry. Of course, educating visitors on their impact of tourism on the community and local economy, heritage and environment, bringing awareness of the need to respect the rights of the locals. And a few days ago, we started the campaign with city helpers. They are like local workers. They communicate with tourists. They speak about Krakow's rules, and it was very received by media and all of the stakeholders with great enthusiasm, because we went back to the basic hospitality rules, open arms, but also speaking, communicating the internal rules. So we are not like Batmans or Spider-Mans just calming down all of the night economy harmful effects, but we start to communicate, we bring awareness. And then the other challenge is how to create a local partnership, network management, and maintaining relations with local communities in order to, inter alia, reduce conflicts between different stakeholder groups. Then protecting the interests of residents, as well as social, cultural, and natural resources of the city from overly heavy tourist traffic and excessive growth of supply. Better recognizing the needs and experiences of visitors. For example, this term of user experience, and providing feedback to local partners. Then strengthening the resilience of visited sites in many ways, because we were talking about this possible overgrowth in some of the tourism attractions. So the great example is now Wawel Castle. We did close the entire area around the castle, and it started to be a place where people just flow in different manners, and it did redirected also this tourism traffic. And then, of course, an important asset is also developing the role of technology and smart solution in managing user experience and commercialization. But the most important to me personally is to rediscover some of the European culture capital roots and values, to use culture, but meant as a high-class quality events, festivals, creative industries, working together to raise the awareness about the quality of space, aesthetics of the events, their impact in terms of noise or eco issues, and to use cultural potential. All of the festivals, we have 80 festivals in Krakow, 500 cultural institutions in promoting sustainable development goals, but also to restructure tourism from, let's say, city break or stack parties tourists into cultural tourists. They would like to come often to Krakow. They are always unfulfilled. They always want to discover more. They haven't touched all of our 117 museums in our town. So they are coming back. They promote the city in a completely different manner. So briefly, that's the main change, and also to treat tourists as a local residents. So communicating, raising awareness about their impact, positive and negative, and also being hospitable. I think something very important nowadays.
Yes, thank you. And I also hear quite a lot of echoes of our charter in what you've been saying. I mean, lots of issues that we discovered within our research seem definitely to be implemented in Krakow, or that's what you're trying to do at the moment. So I'm very glad that also our charter is up to date with the trends that cities face now. And you mentioned the potential of culture, and that's something I would like to ask Jordi again, because I was thinking that cities can play a role in a more sustainable, more resilient future. And what do you think that role could be?
Wow.
Big question.
A generous role. Let me also place this adjective that it has already been used. Density is the key characteristic of a city. We see in history, we have seen in history how density is associated to the urban growth, to the innovation, to culture, of course. During the pandemic, we have seen that density during the pandemic, so all in history. This is not new. And in Europe, we are well aware in the 14th century, the 17th century, beginning of the 20th century also. Yeah, density is sometimes not widening the freedoms of people, not access to, not all cities, not all people have access to green spaces. We do not fully understand the important for our lives to walk in forests, to understand where clean water comes from, where our litter bins go and how they are treated, the use we do of resources, the places where we are, where our nourishment is coming. So sustainable and production and consumption. Unless there are generous approaches, urban, peri-urban, rural, we will be in difficulties. And here, this is also some of the perhaps ways to save the sometimes unbearable density of tourism in some natural and cultural spaces. Perhaps if understood in a urban, peri-urban logic, we could find some solutions. Also, we need to take care of time. We are living too fast. One day visits to cities, one day visits to natural parks. That's an oxymoron. It does not widen our freedoms. It does not widen our knowledge as it should be. So perhaps, yeah, there is some very difficult work to be done in these, say, space and time debates. But the question was very difficult, Joanna. I did what I could.
Yeah, well, maybe I'm sorry to put difficult questions ahead of you, and I was,
fine.
Yeah, I was wondering whether you think that culture could play a role in cities being resilient and sustainable as well.
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. Our work in United Cities and local government is to push for the explicit consideration of culture as a dimension in local sustainable development strategies, and to have cultural actors as operational actors in those debates. Sometimes narratives are nice, identity of cities, all right, of course, who is against? But then when it comes to make the city's plans truly operational, very often the assessment of the cultural impact is not contemplated, it is not in the agenda. The invitation to cultural actors in the decision of, say, long-term plans is not sent. We of course fully endorse the place of culture. We wish the role of culture is enhanced in sustainable and resilient cities. Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. I couldn't agree more, and I think that Snezhka will support me now, because her organization was lobbying for more role for heritage in Europe's recovery plan. So putting those nice words that you mentioned more into practice. How did that go? Did you? What do you think that role could actually be?
Thank you, Joanna, and warm greetings to you all from my native city, Belgrade. And first of all, congrats for this official launch of this important charter. As you have already seen, Europa Nostra is proud to be among the endorsing organizations, and I solemnly pledge that we will not just say that we endorse it, but we will do everything possible to disseminate the important messages of the Charter. And in fact, all these messages of the themes that you have selected also for the Charter fully are in line with these key messages that we have been passing on to the European leaders and beyond, not just for the European leaders in the context of the recovery from the pandemic. Why heritage so much matters. So matters to our lives, to our citizens, to our well-being. And in a sense, Joanna, you will not be surprised that I will refer to this break, sort of the reference document that we have produced together with ICC and other colleagues back in 2015. We didn't wait to be confronted with this amazing crisis of the pandemic to sort of come up with this proposal of a holistic approach and holistic measurement of the multiple benefits and values of cultural heritage, not just for our economy, but still in that time in 2015, everybody was just measuring the importance of heritage in terms of economy. We said, no, this is not the route to do. We have to measure it in terms of its impact on the economy, on the society, of the environment, of culture. It's a holistic vision. If that was true in 2015, it is 10 times more true now in 2021, when we have seen what impact something like a pandemic. I mean, we now know that it can happen. It will perhaps happen again, and it will be happening. So this is something that we have to learn to live with. But this is also this unprecedented crisis, as you already said. It is an unprecedented opportunity to rethink what is the sort of the quality of our life, what is the well-being for our citizens, for the cities that they're living, and not just in cities, also in villages. And so that's why in the middle of the first lockdown, on the 9th of May, the Europe Day, we said, instead of just sort of sending an SOS signs and saying, help us, we are endangered. And of course, we know how much cultural world and cultural heritage world was affected by the pandemic. But we then said, wait a moment, we are the ones which are part of the solution. We are the resource that you have to put at the heart of any recovery plans. And in that, but what's interesting, in the 2021, in 2015, the economy was first. But now in 2020, we have reversed the order of why heritage matters. And we have started by saying it is so important for the well-being and even for the health, mental and physical health of people. At a time where we need to heal our society, we say heritage can contribute to that. We then said, it's so important, it's such an uncertain time. We need heritage to be our anchor and compass. Instead, people are confronted with fears, and heritage is something that can help us to feel where they belong, to feel the sense of belonging, and to feel the sense of togetherness, how they live together. The third one, of course, as digital transformation is something, unfortunately now, thanks to digital transformation, we are debating, we are together now. So it is just saying again that in that digital transformation, again, cultural heritage has a key role to play. We can benefit from that, and we can benefit to this digital transformation. We can offer so much of valuable content that is so important for our society. The green transformation, of course, we are at the heart of the green transformation. We never thought of us as being something which is green, but we are fundamentally part of the circular economy. We are fundamentally something which is part of the sort of more harmonious relationship between culture, nature, between people and our living environment. We are talking about regeneration of our places of living in cities and also in countrysides. And of course, mega events are one of the ways that your charter is showing. Instead of being something which is putting heritage at risk, it can be something that can benefit regeneration, sort of heritage-minded and heritage-led regenerations of cities. And of course, you are talking about the mega events, but all your principles are relevant for any events, even less mega events, and probably in the coming period we will have to organize less mega events. But it's not the size of the event, but it's the philosophy behind that. Whatever we are doing and organizing in cities, it has to be in harmony with them. And so of course tourism, the mayor of Krakow already was speaking about that, how important cultural heritage is for cultural tourism. Last but not least, how important it is for our relationship with the rest of the world. It's not just local, and not just sort of Europocentric. It is also something which is the connection with the entire planet. So all these reasons why it matters, we have been forcefully conveying to the decision makers. We also reached out to the wider cultural world, and with the Culture Action Europe and European Cultural Foundation, we even called for a cultural deal for Europe, and calling that in the recovery plans, we should at least 2% of these huge amounts of money that is now available, thanks to the existence of the European Union and of course member states, that we should put it also at the heart of the recovery. In some countries it worked. Not in all countries we got as much as we wanted, but I think that the message is definitely sort of gaining ground, and we are getting more and more decision makers that are understanding what I always say: heritage is so much more than a sector. We are a vector to achieving all priority and strategic goals for our future. And that is also the message that we will pass. We hope physically we will meet in Venice. I hope you will also be in Venice with us from the 22nd to the 24th of September for our Renaissance European Cultural Heritage Summit, and all these messages we will pass on this occasion.
Yes, thank you. And I think I would like to go in a moment a little bit deeper in one of the areas that you mentioned. But before we do that, I wanted to ask for more a practical example, I said, because you said that the philosophy, the nature of mega events should be changing. And I would like to ask Professor Maria Gravari-Barbas if she thinks that is changing, because she is an expert. She has done some analysis of Paris preparations for the Olympic Games, right? And what do you think is the link between, first of all, is this really changing? Are these Olympics different than the ones that we had before? Or, and do you think there is a link between the Olympics, everything that, the festivities that they are going to have and heritage? Do you think this planning of the mega events considers heritage at all? Or they should read again our charter and reconsider their preparations?
Thanks, Joanna, for asking this very, very important question. And also from my part, congratulations for this chart, which is absolutely crucial and important. Yeah, let me just contextualize a bit. You know that the new philosophy introduced by the International Olympic Committee Agenda 2020 marks a kind of shift towards a new paradigm of operation for mega events. And this shift has important implications for urban heritage, for urban planning, and for preservation. In fact, the Olympics become or are supposed to be more embedded within the existing city. So 3 main recommendations by the Olympic Committee: financial sobriety, be consistent with development plans, and build on existing venues. So to promote sustainability, which is of course the objective, the International Olympic Committee now encourages cities to consider existing or temporary facilities, when possible, of course, and to avoid constructions where, and echoed the expression, no long-term venue legacy needs exist or can be justified. And this is very important. It's really a new paradigm. So there is a growing recognition that urban heritage is important, and also that urban cultural change associated with mega events needs to be also more sensitive to local context and local cultural identity. So the city of Paris prepares the 2024 Games according, in fact, to these main lines, in particular in relation with heritage. And in fact, and this I think is quite exceptional and quite new, Paris 2024 will use as venues some of the world's most visited landmarks. The Eiffel Tower, which will host the beach volley, La Place de la Concorde for the urban sports, the Château de Versailles for the horse riding, Le Grand Palais for the fencing, the taekwondo, the Esplanade des Invalides for the archery, and also the Champs-Élysées. And of course, the banks of the Seine River, which is UNESCO World Heritage, they will be also open to some competitions here to open water swimming. According to Paris stakeholders, the idea is not to create new places, because they consider that there are already an important heritage in Paris, and the idea is to honor this heritage in a way to sublimate the athletes and also all the events and all the competitions that will take place. And of course, this is very important for tourism, and I guess that we will, I was very careful to the discussions before, and maybe we will have the opportunity to speak also about the tourism, because of course these landmarks represent also a spectacular, in fact, images for Paris. They will be broadcast for TV viewers around the world. A great publicity, of course, for the city of Paris, and also in a way for sponsors. Just to say here that France Télévisions has signed a really exceptional partnership with the American giant Discovery to obtain this exclusive transmission grants. And this is quite important because during the games, planes, helicopters, we fly over the capital, although this normally is and originally was prohibited. So there will be exceptional images of Paris, because sport will allow to promote Paris from the sky, which is not very frequent. So you see the challenges, the stakes, and also the importance, including financial importance of all of this. Is important to take it into consideration. But there are some issues, and I really would like to stress mainly on the issues and on the open questions, in fact, because it's quite easy to speak about heritage, but it's absolutely necessary to understand that this will not happen miraculously in Paris. The first point is about ephemeral structures, because of course the organization of Olympic Games within the existing urban fabric implies often the building of ephemeral venues. And this is the case, for example, of the Grand Palais éphémère, which is built in the Champ de Mars, and which is not an easy project. I mean, we already have a lot of contestations by several associations in Paris who expressed, in fact, their opposition to this project because they consider that this ephemeral structure, which is not that ephemeral, in fact, because it will be there for at least 4 years, is a kind of, how can I say, gets in conflict, enters in conflict with public space. And this is the case also for Versailles, where also will be ephemeral venues. And this is also the case for the Place de la Concorde. Recently were made public some images of Place de la Concorde during the games with, in fact, a very, very massive, quite giant rent stands surrounding the famous obelisk and the central fountain of Place de la Concorde. We are in a heritage place, but heritage will not be that visible, in fact. So there are some issues concerning the possibility to, in fact, conciliate these ephemeral structures in heritage places. The second point that I would like to mention here is that sometimes, though we speak about heritage, heritage suffers and suffers a lot, in fact, including in cities in which there is really a will to protect, of course, heritage, in cities in which heritage is absolutely recognized as extremely important. And I can mention here, for example, the demolition of the greenhouses of Les Serres d'Auteuil in order to extend the Roland Garros stadium. This was a kind of important conflict in Paris for almost 5 years ago. More recently, there is also an issue with the Aubervilliers, which is a working class neighborhood in the northern part of Paris, in Aubervilliers, where in fact Les Jardins Ouvriers, the allotments which are located in this working class neighborhood, will probably have to be demolished in order to leave the space for the Olympic pool and also for a sunbath. So there are some issues, and what I'm trying to say here is that, of course, it is important to build in the city, it is important to do with heritage, but in fact, using the historic city for sport events raises a number of difficulties and issues and questions, because, well, composed of historical monuments, of museums, of sites, squares, gardens, avenues, but also more modest places, urban heritage is by nature fragile in terms of its material conservation. And I think this is something that you stressed very well in the chart. So the desire to organize the Olympic Games on the existing city and to avoid new constructions is absolutely positive and very something that really we would like to encourage. However, and this is my final word, one should not be naive. Taking this option has real impacts on heritage, and it would be really a mistake to underestimate or avoid to measure the challenges of the organization of a mega event in an existing city and a fortiori in a heritage city.
Well, it's definitely, that seems like an extraordinary challenge, actually, and the whole organization seems, in a way, quite innovative to bring sporting events into very historic city. So I can imagine that there are lots of controversies there, and, well, it would be quite interesting to see how it evolves over the time also. I would like to ask two last questions to our guests here, to Snežka and Maria. First to Snežka about this EU Green Deal and how culture can be part of the climate change resilience, let's say. Can you name like three most important things that culture could bring to contribute to this new challenge?
Yes, indeed, Joanna. We deeply believe that cultural heritage is not something of peripheral importance to the success of the European Green Deal. It's rather something that should be at the very heart of it. And why are we so, I would say, pretentious to say that we should be at the heart of the Green Deal? Is because the whole green transformation and the necessary immense climate action and adaptation that the world and Europe needs to take, and in a very, very speed tempo, is fundamentally a cultural transformation. We, of course, need technologies to help us achieve it, but we also need a shift in our mindset, in our way of life. And this is why we have, as you know, in March, published the first ever European Cultural Heritage Green Paper. And that was our statement, an important document, again inspired by the Cultural Heritage Council for Europe document, to say to the decision makers in Europe, it is in our interest, in the heritage interest, that the Green Deal succeeds. But it is in the interest, in the success of the European Green Deal to put cultural heritage and to use that potential much more than it is the case now as one of the resources contributing to the various objectives. We have produced the documents with ICOMOS, Climate Heritage Network, European Investment Bank Institute. So once again, there is a sort of a momentum and a mobilization within the cultural heritage world to realize that we have a role to play and that we have something to offer. Now, what concretely, your question is, basically on all chapters of the Green Deal, from the famous Chatham renovation wave, we know that we have to renovate a huge amount of buildings in Europe, and 30% of these buildings in European cities and countryside are older than 50 years. So there is an enormous amount of sort of historic structure, existing buildings that need to be transformed, and there they can't disregard the specificities of cultural heritage, but it also has to be done in dialogue with heritage stakeholders in order to be done in the way that it will be beneficial for the climate action and at the same time beneficial to cultural heritage. So we have to make sure that this is a win-win, basically, action. Something else, it is the whole issue of energy efficiency and renewable also energy development. Of course, this is an extremely important transformation that we have to have. But we have to have in mind that wherever we develop these renewable sources of energy, they're developed in places, in cities or more in countryside that are rich in cultural heritage. And so that, again, we have to do it in dialogue. The inclusive governance, the context and the inclusive governance is so important when you develop these things. I mean, I said heritage-rich cities. I was amused, but I was thinking, I suppose we don't have heritage-poor cities. It is a definition of any cities in Europe, at least, that it is a heritage-rich place, and any countryside is a heritage-rich place. And that is why sort of everything that we are doing, we have to tap into that potential, but handle it with care. Take now another, you said three, I'll say the third one is the farm to fork strategy. Because it's also, when we are talking about heritage being an asset also for climate action, it's not just tangible heritage, it is the intangible one. So also the traditional know-how agriculture for agriculture in sort of production of food and consumption of food, it can learn us a lot. We can do better. And as Jordi said, we have to slow down. We have to speed up the climate action, but we have to slow down is sort of our way of life in order to speed up the climate action. So we can learn so much from traditional methods also for farming, like we can learn from traditional materials and traditional methods of building in our cities and region that are much more sort of in balance with the needs of biodiversity and preservation of nature and preservation of our planet. So this is just, I mean, our document gives so many more recommendations, and I want to invite participants in this webinar to know more about that. And the last point is, also, I want to point out and applaud and say how much we are also dedicated to an initiative called New European Bauhaus. I'm sure you are aware of that, and that is an important initiative of President of the Commission, Ursula von der Leyen. We are proud partners and promoters. In fact, this New European Bauhaus is also was born out of, fortunately, the awareness of the decision makers that something was missing, fundamentally missing in the Green Deal. And that is the involvement of the cultural world, the world of heritage, the world of design, the world of architecture, urban planners. All of them have to be at the heart of the interpretation of the Green Deal. So we have a lot to do But if we do it together, we will do it smart, then we can succeed.
Yes, definitely you have to do it together, and we do encourage everybody to go to the European Nostra's webpage and check all those documents that Snezhka mentioned, because they really bring quite a lot of different aspects of the problems that we have been discussing today. And I think one of the recurring words that we heard today is resilience and sustainability. And I was wondering if you, Maria, think that tourism can be sustainable, because tourism also was mentioned quite a lot today. And can it be sustainable? And let's say, will it be sustainable in case of Paris Olympic Games? You think it's possible?
This is a very interesting but not easy question to answer. It depends on what we are speaking about, and let me just contextualize very, very briefly. We are speaking about the Olympic Games in Paris. And in the context I presented before, means also in the center of Paris and in very sensitive heritage areas. This is really a huge economic and business opportunity for some of the tourism, at least stakeholders. The Paris Île-de-France Regional Tourist Board estimates that 15 to 20 million visitors, 15 to 20 million visitors will arrive to Paris during the Games. And they also estimate that the economic impact will be 3 billion euros. So we are speaking about huge, huge numbers. There are also estimations about 60,000 jobs that should be created in the tourism sector. So now we're speaking about the Olympic Games, but of course, this is not the most favorable period for tourism. The most important is, in fact, the period that will start now, means the pre-Olympic Games period. And this is important not only for tourism, but also for strategic decisions and also for the development of what you mentioned before, you named before, sustainable tourism. I prefer to speak about sustainable development of tourism than about sustainable tourism, which is not exactly the same thing. In fact, from the close of Tokyo 2021 Olympic Games, so this August till October 2024, the Paris Cultural Olympiad will in fact take place in Paris, which is a whole series of events throughout Paris, but also France. With the idea to promote, as is usually the case, French heritage and French culture. So this pre-Olympic Games period is probably the best time, not only to increase tourism in France, but also to work better and differently on sustainable development of tourism in Paris. This is also the opportunity to showcase less touristic areas, to develop a different kind of tourism, to show areas which are, we could say, off the beaten tracks. This could be the case in Paris because, in fact, most of the Olympic competitions will take place in the north of Paris, in Plan Commune, which is a group of municipalities in the north of Paris, which will be, in a way, the geographical epicenter of the Games. And as part of this dynamic, Saint-Denis hopes to develop a new tourism based on a new appreciation, in fact, of very, very rich heritage of these areas, which are definitely not the most touristic areas in Paris today. And based on this, for example, Saint-Denis also applies to be European Capital of Culture in 2028. So there is a kind also of appeal from one big event to another big event. So tourism considerations are extremely important for urban and metropolitan stakeholders. And all of them are totally aware about this. But the question of the sustainability of tourism is much more complex. The question is not if the Olympic Games will be an opportunity for sustainable tourism during summer 2024. It's rather how, in fact, it is possible starting from now. And already, I mean, we are quite in an advanced stage before the Olympic Games. How can we use the Olympic Games in order to consolidate the sustainable tourism strategy on which the city of Paris is currently very actively working on? And this is very important to stress here, the fact that there is a strong will, a strong political will in the city of Paris to develop sustainably tourism. So the next years, 2, 3, 4 years will be absolutely crucial. So what I would like to say here, and this will be my last word, the promise of the Olympic Games is a very considerable leverage factor to rebuild a post-COVID tourism sector, which was really distressed, in fact, in Paris, mainly for very small and for medium-sized tourism enterprises. And if it is well planned, yes, this will allow to consolidate the more general sustainable tourism policy in Paris. But this will not happen without a very strong political will. And I insist on the very strong political will. I think this is really the key word. Political will to structure, regulate, and strategically also orient tourism in Paris.
Well, yes, thank you. And I think that for us also, the HOMI project, Paris Olympics will be sort of a laboratory of a new mega event, actually, how it changes after the COVID, what kind of recommendations they consciously or unconsciously actually implement from our charter. And well, what should we do next in terms of analysis and policy-oriented research as well? I would like to thank you all for your great interventions. I personally feel we didn't explore everything we should, and I wish we could have a little bit more time to have a follow-up questions to all your contributions. But given the time restraints, I would like to thank you warmly for your attendance and for your speeches today. And well, I hope we'll see each other in real life, I mean in real physical context soon. So have a great summer ahead of you. And I would like to now turn your attentions, dear viewers, to the HOMI project again back. And I would like to ask Zachary Jones from Politecnico di Milano to give us some comments on what we have heard today. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. It's a pleasure to be here with everyone this afternoon. And just very quickly, I want to thank again all of our speakers from this session for really a very interesting, very lively, very engaging discussion. I agree, I wish we could go on. You started to uncover so many different topics that are so relevant. So I look forward to the next opportunities where we can continue these discussions going. So thank you for taking your time out of your busy schedules to be here with us today, as well as more generally and broadly, just your support for the project and the charter up until now, and hope we can also continue that in the future. So I will do my best to give a sort of short commentary on all of these issues that you've raised. And I have two keywords that I think work well to try to bring everything or connect all these issues together. And the first would be challenges. I think you've brought up a number of challenges that cities are facing currently and into the future. Right now, especially the post-COVID recovery is quite urgent, as discussed, but also a number of social issues and inequalities that Jordi mentioned, to the pressing threats of climate change that cities are needing to prepare for already now. We're seeing more and more issues, and these will only continue in the future. And so the number and complexity of these challenges seems to be ever growing. Which means that we need to start finding, I think, new ways or new solutions for how we handle these challenges. Because if we continue to view them individually, one at a time, we may be able to address some of them, but we're never going to be able to address all of them. We'll be overwhelmed. And so I think as we go forward, we need to start seeking out the various overlaps and intersections between maybe very different areas or disciplines that may not seem connected at first glance. And I think that's what we've tried to do in our own way with the Charter. Our little small contribution to this is to take something like mega events and cultural heritage that when I started working on this subject 7 years ago, was not always an immediate link, and there were sometimes doubts or critiques about whether or not it was relevant to be looking at these issues together. But through the work that we've done and through the Charter and thinking about all of these issues in Paris that Maria, you just mentioned, 7 years ago, no one would have been thinking about this, but now we can see are incredibly relevant across a wide range of cities. And there are a number of complexities to be dealt with and considered to weigh these opportunities and threats. So I think as we go forward, in order, if we want to be more sustainable, we want to be more innovative, we have to begin thinking in a different way to try to find, perhaps they're not so obvious, but these potential connections. And as we've seen through the charter, these 4 themes, the various recommendations, the wide range of issues that we've been able to address or deal with, and we hope that will be its legacy, is to allow get other decision makers to think in this more complex way, to see the potential for cultural heritage to be a resource for sustainability, to be part of the solution, as you mentioned, Sneska, not just something that needs help, but to be able to link all of these and to become far more strategic in facing these ever increasing challenges. And the second keyword that I'd like to use, that I think well summarizes a lot of the points we discussed today, is that of cooperation. So if we want to become more innovative, if we want to properly face these challenges, we have to become more cooperative. On one hand, at an intra-city scale, bringing together different actors, stakeholders, community members, but also at a transnational level to work with cities globally. I think it's quite clear that none of these issues are isolated to Europe, by no means, but really are global issues, global challenges. All over the world, cities are trying to figure out how to deal and respond to COVID, or are trying to deal with pressing sustainability development and how to do things in a new and different ways. So having networks like the Organization of World Heritage Cities, like UCLG, like Europa Nostra, are critical to sharing information. And also I like the way that Robert put it, a sharing of values, especially, I think is so critical in this approach, that rather than everyone trying to repeat or reinvent the wheel, that we can learn from shared experiences, we can learn from best practices, or maybe experiments that didn't go as hoped for or planned. There's always something to learn. And again, through the charter, that was, through the process of developing it, something that we really strove for. So in the research, to make sure that we were getting out of our academic bubbles and interacting with different groups, different stakeholders, from the event organizers, the heritage field, the city policymakers, to other local cultural organizations, NGOs, but then also going beyond just the case studies to then, as we were constructing the charter a year ago, involving those people, inviting them back, getting their feedback, asking them to be as critical as possible, because we knew if we wanted to get to where we are today, to have a document that's actually useful, actually relevant, we needed those people to have input, to make sure that it was something they could reference, that they would use, that they could take to other actors. So for us, I think it was, for many of us, a new experience within research to really be so transparent, to be so open, so inclusive. And that's something that I hope going forward will continue to be part of the legacy of the charter, that, you know, while today might be one of the final events for the research, it is very much the launch of the charter, and we hope that that will be the legacy going forward, and particularly through the support and endorsement of all of the groups that have been here today represented, will be a key aspect in making sure that cities around the world, around the globe, can not only benefit, but use this or share this. And again, we can add their experiences to what we've been able to collect these last 3 years through the work that we've done. Because again, these issues are by no means restricted or limited to Europe, but we need the influence and experience and learnings from all over the world, from Latin America to Asia to Africa. And so I hope that will be the next step of the work that we're able to do. Again, as mega events and events of all sizes are clearly taking place globally, and we've seen that increasing in recent years. It's an issue we definitely need to be aware of. So I invite anyone that's maybe with us here today in the audience from different parts of the world or involved in different groups or festivals or events to please, partner with us. We would love to have your input in the future. We'd love to have your support of the charter going forward. And I think these two approaches of this sort of cooperation, transnational, international cooperation, to face these ever new emerging challenges, will be the keys to really finding the balance between these opportunities and threats that mega events can present, and to make sure that that cities really can be as well prepared as possible to face any and all challenges. So thank you very much. I will give the floor back to you, Joanna, and to my other colleagues.
Thank you, Zach. That was a great summary of what we've been discussing today. And thank you for broadening our perspective beyond Europe, because definitely the challenges are global. And for the closing remarks, I would like to ask our other colleagues from the HOMI projects to share with us their comments on the subject and on our cooperation. I have with us Ewantia Dowa from Neapolis University in Paphos, David Atkinson and Enrico Tomarchi from University of Hull, and last but not least, the main coordinator of our project, Davide Poncini, whom you already met in the morning session. And well, let's go ladies first, maybe. And Evie, would you please take the floor first?
Thank you, Joanna, for the invitation, and of course all the homies for the pleasure of working with you on this project, which gave me the chance to see very clearly how cities that are vastly different in scale and character and location, and of course in terms of their histories and populations, how they've taken advantage of their urban heritage to put together a mega event. And not only the spectacular aspects of their heritage, but increasingly often its dramatic and even painful sides. Naturally, from the point of view of attracting visitors and the city marketing-led model of development, this was to be expected. But I think this project makes it clear that such practices also have the potential to draw local populations to a mega event and to make it more relevant to them, either through the activities of the event as a way to get to know their city and themselves better, or even before, when planning the event, as an opportunity to work together and use this shared past to propose a shared future. So this aspect of heritage and mega events was quite prominent in the case of Paphos 2017, which we know firsthand, and Wrocław 2016, and again, in upcoming Kaunas and Eleusis, just to refer to this morning's sessions. And I find that this sense of participation and engagement, which cultural heritage can very well instigate, and I think that's part of what it's supposed to do to begin with, is clearly crucial in the post-pandemic city, as we're all trying to find ways to safely re-engage with one another in a physical environment. I think mega or no longer so mega events that are thoughtfully embedded in their urban settings are certainly ways to achieve this. And since, now that we've moved almost every aspect of human interaction online in this past couple of years, what is evident is the danger of decontextualizing those events. But I feel that exploiting the cultural and the urban heritage, which are essentially physical and essentially collective, that can very much help mega event planners and local governance mitigate that risk. Then again, these newly found and by now widely used digital tools are exciting, and they can enhance participation in the planning stage, also in the projects themselves, and again, monitoring the event and expanding its legacy, and all these things that we've been discussing today. So I think that a whole new avenue of inquiry lies in this direction of understanding the impacts of the virtual switch onto the physical spatial aspects of a mega event, and on its relationship to urban cultural heritage and historic environments in particular. So I hope I haven't taken up much of your time. Back to you, Joanna. Thank you again for this whole day.
Thank you very much, Evie. And I would like to ask David to tell us what his comments and opinions are. Please, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. I'm David Atkinson. I'm a professor of cultural and historical geography from the University of Hull in the UK. And it's a great pleasure to be part of this fascinating research project and this event today as well, which is such a lot of interesting voices and opinions. I'm going to make two quick observations, or we might call them provocations, about the futures of City of Culture mega events and Olympic Games, those kind of mega events we're talking about today. And one is a theoretical position based on my geographical background, and one is a more practical or operational point to think about as well. So the first one, the theoretical thing, is about the enduring but difficult and slippery importance of place in mega events, and then their planning and their delivery and their legacy after that as well. Because place, certainly in the Anglo-Saxon English-speaking world, is a very difficult, elusive and vague category. And academic geography has been trying to work out what the concept means for around about 120 years, and we still don't really know what it means. We still don't really have a clear sense of what it stands for. But we do all appreciate that place is crucial to society, to individuals, to social groups, and to how we make sense of our place in the world and the place of other people all around us as well, and where we belong as well. And our sense of place helps us to navigate, and to construct, and to make sense of the worlds around us through what we in geography call our geographical imaginations of the world and how it all locks together. So mega events have to work within this context of a sense of place and geographical imaginations as well. And we immediately talk about these things. We emplace them as we talk about Rijeka or Galway as European capitals of culture in 2021, or the Tokyo Olympic Games. We give them a time in a year, but we also give them a place in which they're located. And immediately that has points and resonances and ways of making us think about these things in different ways. And likewise, the agendas of mega events are often about changing place as well, or the challenges of place. They're often about trying to reshape somewhere with a reputation, or trying to make it a different type of place, or in people's imaginations, a different world, a different type of place as well. And in the UK in particular, the city of culture has been about taking old industrial cities or post-industrial cities like Glasgow and Liverpool and Hull and making them into new kinds of places in the popular imagination, popular geographical imagination. So, and then also there's something about changing the districts and areas within cities of creative hubs or cultural quarters, and that kind of rhetoric and those ideas which we're all really familiar with as well. So this is all about how place and space and geographical imagination structure our world and structure this phenomenon of mega events which we're talking about as well. And as is discussed earlier, and the discussion with the Paris Olympics as well. This also, the pandemic changes how we experience place and how we, possibly by going online, as Avanti said, decontextualize these events. But this is also therefore about how will we negotiate and rechange and re-challenge these ideas in a post-pandemic, more digitized world where we should be meeting in Milan at the moment, but we're all on the screen talking to each other like this. So how do we now engage with places in the future going forward? How do we deal with tourism, with travel, with places if we can't necessarily see and engage with them in the ways in which we're used to? How do we do this through digital platforms? That's one of the things I want to talk about, or what I think we might need to think about in the next few years. How do we think and deal with this slippery and difficult and challenging concept of place? My second point, and this is a shorter one, and then I'll finish, is just about the roles of academic researchers and experts within mega events as well. And I'm not the first person to say this, but I think it's a relevant point, so I'll repeat some other people's ideas here. In the University of Hull, in the UK City of Culture in 2017, our experience was often very positive and very productive and useful, but it also, in certain respects, was difficult at times as well. The university was the academic research partner to the mega event. We're also involved in the evaluation process. We're also involved in working alongside the City Council, the City of Culture company who ran the mega event, and local place promotion officers, tourism officers and agencies, and so on. The university also contributed to the cultural provision of 2017 with various events on our campus. And of course, the university staff and students are embedded in the city. We're part of the city. We're part of the culture of the city as well. So this was all meant we were thoroughly embedded with these things, but it made it difficult for us to be fully honest in our role as evaluators and to be fully critical in a good and constructive sense about how the City of Culture episode was being delivered and being rolled forward. And this is partly just because of the personal closeness and our conflicting roles and the challenges of doing those kind of things. So therefore, moving forwards in mega event evaluation, we might need to if we want genuinely critical and independent evaluation and research, it may mean that the academics or the researchers have more distance from the mega event which they're talking about and engaging with. So that's the final point which I wanted to make here. It's been an enormous pleasure to engage with this HOMI project, and it's been great fun doing this stuff, doing this research with everybody. So that's 2 quick observations from the north of England. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Those are very good points and questions that you have raised here. And I wish we could have the time to discuss it. But now I would like to turn to Enrico Tamarchi for his opinions and comments. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Joanna. And I also wanted to thank our speakers for today's really exciting and insightful discussion. I really enjoyed that. And it's been also a pleasure for me to be part of this team and to undertake this very, very insightful research. And for just a couple of notes in my final remarks, I wanted to highlight 2 aspects in particular. The first one is that I think our research really demonstrates how mega event schemes, and in particular cultural mega event schemes, can operate as platforms to increase heritage awareness and learning within local communities. So this is a very interesting point, and this was particularly evident in the case of Hull UK City of Culture 2017, which you find a brief description of this experience in these snapshots of a charter. And this case shows how new and spontaneous, if you wish, ways to connect with and present heritage, tangible and intangible heritage, through cultural projects and events can increase awareness and engagement. Because in the case of Hull, theatre plays and highly engaged events were used to mobilize iconic areas of the historic city centre, but also less obvious heritage assets and narratives, which were not necessarily widely known across the population. As a second aspect, very briefly, I just wanted to mention the fact that promoting awareness and learning of heritage within cultural mega events is facing many challenges, of course, in the last year and a half, and but also opportunities in the adaptation to COVID-19. On the one hand, of course, we all know that sadly many heritage sites had to close, in particular in 2020, and were reopened at a reduced capacity, while nationwide bans on mass gatherings became really commonplace throughout the world. But on the other hand, however, we have seen now how many cultural institutions and heritage sites have been adapting to this new situation, for example, by offering virtual tours or cultural programming on an online or blended basis. Now, in my opinion, these new ways to deliver cultural events, which are becoming increasingly popular in the last few months, really, make it possible to mobilize less well-known and, more importantly, fragile heritage assets, and also certain narratives that were perhaps a bit hidden in the, let's say, in the loud mega event scheme, so to speak. And some of these assets really wouldn't or couldn't be used as venues for cultural events under normal circumstances, and let alone under these current social distancing restrictions. So, of course, if careful planning is undertaken, I think that these assets could benefit hugely from the visibility and the level of community engagement, which is commonly associated with the framework of a mega event. So this, in my opinion, is really an opportunity arising from the growing use of digital technologies, which can be further explored through a stronger synergy between mega event planning and locally embedded knowledge of heritage. Thank you very much.
Thank you for bringing new points to the discussion, and the one about the online events and the opportunities that they arise has been already mentioned. I wish we could talk about it a bit more also, because it's a very important thing. But sadly, we have only one speaker left, and happily it's our coordinator. Please, Davide, the floor is yours. You have the floor to summarize and close our session. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. I see we are a bit late, so I want to thank you and thank all the homies for this wonderful journey. Once again, thanks to our guests and to all the attendees to everyone who contributed to the project and to this event. I will simply add some facts and figures before closing the webinar. The HOMI project involved, in fact, 20 researchers and more in a 3-year-long journey. I hope you understood that the involved people are the real motor of this research and of this charter. It has been not easy for us to keep the project going and to deliver on time in these 3 years. The COVID-19 pandemic is changing our reality. University restructuring and other unexpected issues troubled us to a lower but significant extent. This led us to countless online meetings. We introduced significant changes in terms of the research methods, in terms of the interaction with our associate partners and with policymakers. The situation pushed us to invest more energy in online communication. The news about the charter and about this very launch event reached about 350,000 people through the social media and the internet, also thanks to our generous partners and the speakers networks. 170 people registered to attend this webinar and saw it on the streaming platform. The HOMI project now has a YouTube channel with about 3,000 views. I believe that today's full video of the charter will give it a boost. And this is just the start of the dissemination phase of the project. We have about 3 months left in the HOMI research project. Please download the charter, circulate the charter to decision makers, experts, community leaders, and to anyone who can be interested in endorsing, but most importantly, in using the charter. Please contact us if you would like to involve us. We intend to make the charter useful at all levels and to spread the word in Europe and beyond Europe. We will be in touch with those who registered for the event. Actually, you can still register today until 6 p.m. We will send one follow-up message and additional materials to them. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Davide. So just to say again, we declare the charter officially launched, and we hope all of you that were here today with us will be using it and disseminating it. And please do contact us if there's anything we can do to further help you with your mega events and our charter. Thank you, everybody, and goodbye.